Welcome to the Half Moon Yoga and Art audio blog and podcast. My name is Hannah. Today we will be discussing our dark side. We all have one. What is it? Why do some people seem more dominated by this dark side than others? How does it grow? Have you ever noticed what happens to your body and mind when you watch a violent or scary movie? When I was a kid, I was horrified by Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Seriously, all those kids died because they wanted to eat more chocolate. Throughout my childhood, I cultivated a lot of fear. I was terrified of the dark, under the bed, the closet, spiders, dogs, spending a night away from home, and many more situations. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares and see strange forms arise from my imagination. What caused this fear and dark side to grow? Over the last year, spiritually awakening, I've tapped into resources about this phenomenon. Although I knew that horror and violent movies were not beneficial to my well-being, I now understand why. Going to a horror film can actually put your body under a considerable amount of psychological and physical stress. You may be able to tell yourself that it's not real, but your body feels like it's in a life-threatening situation. Stress from a horror or violent movie is linked with memory loss and psychological difficulties like depression. But worst of all, this cortisol release also leads to the rise of bad memories from the past. Have you ever left a movie and then gradually through your dreams or thoughts the next day you started recalling a painful event in the past, like a breakup from many years ago or anger you felt towards someone who wronged you long ago? Your thinking pattern shifted to become deeply negative. You were most likely unaware that after the flood of negative thinking, a wave of emotion invaded your mind as a dark and heavy mood, as anxiety or fiery anger. It's a part of how those bad memories get embedded in the first place. This effect can also be seen by playing violent video games and listening to angry music. In the entertainment industry, we see a high degree of violence portrayed against other human beings. Eckart Tolle poses the question in A New Earth, why do we constantly want to feel bad? You cringe when you see someone get hurt in these movies, but why do you continue to watch these movies? It is not so much that you cannot stop your train of negative thoughts, but that you don't want to. There is an unseen dark force that causes us to consciously seek pain over and over again. Of course, no one would do this consciously. No one likes to suffer, and yet we unconsciously create repetitive and unnecessary conflicts. According to Eckart Tolle in A New Earth, our pain body is the dark shadow cast by the ego. This pain body is an accumulation of old emotional pain that we're carrying around in our energy field. It consists of negative emotions that were repressed, not faced, accepted, and then let go in the moment they arose. These negative emotions leave a residue of emotional pain, which is stored in the cells of our body. It has the impact of recurring memories and thoughts of sadness, anxiety, anger, or self-defeating behaviors. Thoughts have their own range of frequencies, with negative thoughts at the lower end of the scale and positive at the higher. Your pain body is living through you, pretending to be you. And to the pain body, this pain is pleasure. When the pain body goes dormant and finished with an episode of activity, it leaves us behind as a depleted organism and a body that is much more susceptible to illness. The pain body has a dormant stage and an active stage. Periodically, it becomes activated, and when it does, it seeks more suffering to feed on. The pain body that is ready to feed can use the most insignificant event as a trigger, something somebody says or does, or even a thought. If you are not absolutely present, it takes over your mind and feeds on negative thinking as well as negative experiences such as drama in relationships. It needs to get its food through you. It will feed on any experience that resonates with its own kind of energy, anything that creates further pain in whatever form: anger, destructiveness, hatred, grief, emotional drama, violence, and even illness. So the pain body, when it has taken over, will create a situation in your life that reflects back its own energy and frequency for it to feed on. Pain can only feed on pain. Pain cannot feed on joy. In romantic relationships, partners know how to push each other's buttons. And what starts out as a lovely romantic affair can turn into regular fighting. This is a manifestation of pain bodies feeding on each other. If you live alone like me and there is nobody around at the time, the pain body will feed on your thoughts. I created a comic strip in high school after experiencing a few breakups. My view of forever love was being tainted by my pain body growing and telling me that this is how romance works. It will always end in heartache. The more I dwelled on this romantic loss, the stronger the emotional memory grew as my pain body. Many of us have witnessed experiences with someone in whom the pain body is very active. They need to drink or take substances all of the time as they carry with them too much pain to bear, and life becomes unbearable. Having such great amounts of pain does not mean that you are doomed to destruction. If we want to live in harmony with ourselves and the world, we need to dissolve this dark pain body. We need to release it by cutting the link between the pain body and our thought processes, so that we no longer feed the pain body with our thinking. This is actually a greater opportunity for you to awaken and let the light of consciousness begin to shine through. If you become present when your pain body acts out, it dissipates. Presence can put an instant stop to the ongoing drama and negativity. Horror and violent movies were designed to mass market fear. Why would anyone want to mass market fear? The creators of these destructive entertainment tools are also feeding into their own dark side of pain. The more they can entice fear into people, the more powerful they become. Every pain body contains a great deal of fear, since fear is a primitive negative emotion. The House of Leaves paints a mystifying experience of what it is like to deeply get lost in our dark side. This novel is filled with fear, depression, drugs, meaningless sex, and a vast confusion of labyrinthian darkness. The author, Mark Z. Danielewski, draws comparisons of science, history, mysticism, art, pop culture, television, documentaries, and childhood trauma to pull the reader in deeply. I read this book many years ago and it was hard to put down. It's surprising that the deeper I dove into the book, the more drama suddenly started to arise around me. Danielewski made a reference that stayed with me related to an ancient site that I visited back in 2007, Knossos on the island of Crete. Allegedly in 1400 BCE, Daedalus constructed a labyrinth for King Minos. It served as a prison located in the city of Knossos. The maze was built to incarcerate the Minotaur, a creature supposedly born from an illicit encounter between the queen and bull. The narrator in the House of Leaves points out the scientific fact that a minotaur is not possibly produced from a queen and a bull. Perhaps this monster was the king's own deformed child with a deformed face and human body. The king Minos showed great power when he accused his wife, Pasiphae, publicly of fornicating with a male bovine. Therefore, the cult of the bull was prominent in Minoan culture. All over the palace were these symbols of royal power, the double horns. Furthermore, King Minos formed this labyrinth as an expression for repression. Complicated enough to keep his son from escaping, the myth sparked fear in the people to believe that this monster wandered around in the dark and devoured more than a dozen Athenian youths every few years, criminals sentenced to death in Greece. The narrator again points out that those who were supposedly fed to the Minotaur actually starved to death from the complexity of the maze, not the ferocity of the monster Minotaur. The legend continues to be a mystery if Homer's Iliad was based on fact or fiction. The legend states that Theseus, the son of the conquered king Aegeus, volunteered to go as one of the victims to be thrown into the labyrinth, vowing that he would slay the monster and bring his companions home. When he met Ariadne, the Minoan princess, she provided a ball of wool and told him to fasten the loose end to the entrance door of the labyrinth where the Minotaur was imprisoned. He killed the man-bull and was able to retrace his steps by winding up the wool and finding his way safely out. After the slaying of the Minotaur, the Minoan culture supposedly began to lose their power and domination over the Aegean Sea as people no longer feared the monster bull hidden in the dark labyrinth. The main character in the House of Leaves comes across a piece of advice that rings true to Eckart's message about our dark side. Treat that place as a thing unto itself, independent of all else, and confront it on those terms. You alone must find the way. The dark pain body is not some ghost that lives within us. This darkness may seem to you like a dangerous monster that you cannot bear to look at, but instead it is an insubstantial negative energy that cannot prevail against the power of our awareness of consciousness in the present moment. The only way Eckart explained it is beneficial to watch violence is to see and become aware of this human madness. Sometimes we need to show the violence to stop the violence. For example, the best anti-war films are war films. Eckart further points out that many cultures, such as Jewish, Native American, or African American populations, carry collective pain bodies that last throughout many generations. The recognition of this dark energy field is what will start the change of lifting the collective pain body. Eckart explains that we all get so caught up with me and my story that we revolve our lives and thoughts around that, thinking that is who we are, when it is far from the truth. One way of defining the ego is simply this: a dysfunctional relationship with the present moment. If there is neither acceptance, enjoyment, or enthusiasm in what you do, you are out of alignment with your universal purpose. You are creating unhappiness or suffering in one form or another. When you hear these recordings of past pains and angers, let your presence shine through by stating to yourself that this is nothing more than an old broken record of pain. And what is amazing, that as heavy and as big as you think that past burden is, as soon as you become present, you are free of your past. If you are faced with a person who is acting out of their pain body in a heated moment, be still and do not confront this person, as no one will win an argument with a pain body, but only feed it more if you react. The best results in a relationship will manifest if both partners allow their consciousness to guide them as much as possible. Spiritual realization is the discovery that you don't need to add anything to yourself in order to be yourself fully. You don't need to try to become good, but allow the goodness that is within you, inherent in your being, to emerge. The pain body is actually afraid of the light of your consciousness. The physical practice of yoga and meditation is a process of awakening our consciousness. When we bring attention to our breath and our alignment in our body, we are living in the present moment, without distractions from the past, which cause depression, or the future, which cause anxiety. I encourage you to keep this blog post in mind as we approach the Halloween season. I hope that you will make conscious decisions to stay away from feeding your dark side with horror movies and destructive music. How can you focus on the positive and let your light keep shining? I would love to hear about how you are taking steps towards dissolving the power of your dark pain body. Please comment below. Thank you for listening to another episode of Half Moon Yoga and Art audio blog and podcast. Have a wonderful week, and namaste.